Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jamie Glass. I'm with UW-Madison, and
My name is Franco. I'm with Wisconsin Emergency Management.
we're going to give a brief presentation on the Wisconsin Cyber Response Team. I think we need to go back a few slides, though. So if you bear with us. So let's go back to the beginning, shall we?
Slide.
All right, we'll do a brief background introduction for each of us as presenters this afternoon. We're glad you could join us. We'll just kind of talk a little bit about what in our career path brought us to this presentation this afternoon. And we'll start with Dr. Franco.
I think Jamie's story is much more interesting than mine. So like I said, I'm with Wisconsin Emergency Management. I didn't start there. I began in IT. My IT career began in 1995, working with a Windows 95 launch partner doing tech support way back in the day. If you can remember, for those of you who remember, going from Windows 3.1 to Windows 95 was a nightmare. And so I was one of those folks trying to help people, if nothing else, revise an autoexec.bat, or something like that to try to get, that nice little desktop to pop up. From there, I actually left IT after about 8 years in that industry. It went into K-12 and higher education after graduate school, and then found my way back into state service with the Wisconsin Department of Military Affairs after my last overseas deployment. I just needed a change from K-12 and higher ed full-time. I still work as an adjunct at a couple of universities, but for the most part, I'm firmly planted in emergency management. My current role at WEM, as we call it, is twofold. One is the cybersecurity preparedness coordinator. So from the all hazards planning standpoint and preparedness mission, I work with counties, tribes, municipalities, school districts, and any other public sector stakeholder with preparedness planning, emergency management planning, response activities, and also within the State Emergency Operations Center to some things there as well. I'm also the project director of the Wisconsin Cyber Response Team, which is an all-volunteer organization that really takes some of the some really brilliant people statewide who volunteer their service to support public sector entities that really don't have the funds to have security personnel on staff or to provide the kind of training that they need to be able to skill up to do all the things cybersecurity, so to speak. But it's where I met Jamie and where we continue to collaborate with working with our statewide mission of trying to reduce our cyber risk profile as much as possible. So, Jamie.
Yeah, so Jamie Glass, Network Defense Analyst out of the Office of Cybersecurity. Well, I got to that point in my career, much like Dr. Franco, I started my IT career in the early mid-90s. I was a help desk employee for a chain of indoor amusement parks called Discovery Zone. And I provided remote point of sale support for those stores from our IT center in Dallas, Texas. And then Discovery Zone was bought out by Blockbuster Entertainment, and I became an employee of Blockbuster Entertainment. And they were bought out by Viacom Entertainment. And I was working for them for a while, and then I was headhunted and stolen away from them at my desk by IBM Global Services. That was before the tech sector burst, and I was eventually headhunted away from IBM at the end of the contract with Texas Utilities by Heritage Mobile Oil Corporation, where I worked as a data security and Lotus Notes specialist at their IT support center in North Dallas. I then relocated back to the Midwest from Texas because I'm originally from the Chicagoland area. I took a position with an audio, video, and web conference company at the turn of the millennium called Conference Plus out of Schaumburg, Illinois, as a network administrator and building server racks, crimping cables, building drive arrays, audio, video, and web conferencing bridges, that sort of thing for them. Decided that I had had enough of corporate America at that point, packed everything up and moved to Wisconsin. where I became a self-employed IT consultant up on the South Shore of Lake Superior in Bayfield County. What a culture shock, going from the Chicagoland area to God's country. Yeah. Good for the sanity, a little slow on the career, but they were just rolling out high-speed internet up there thanks to their local exchange carrier called Chectel Communications Cooperative, now known as Norvato. They were rolling first DSL and then a fiber backbone along Lake Superior. And so there was a need for local businesses and government units in that area to get technical support services and some networking done. And I had enough experience in those areas where I was able to help out with that, which led me into K-12 education, like Dr. Franco. I was employed by the Cooperative Educational Services Agency, CESA, for Region 12, which is the 17 northernmost districts in the state, employed as an IT director / consultant. And so what I would do is fill in as the tech director for school districts that couldn't source one internally. And so at one point, I was the tech director for South Shore, Mellon, Winter, and CESA 12, one-person IT shop for all 4 of those locations. And so that was an interesting time in life. And around 2021, near the, right around the back to office time of the end of the pandemic, our agency administrator had retired, and his replacement said, Jamie, you're doing fine work with the school districts, but after I toured all 17 of them, they all came back and they're all scared about cybersecurity. Will you find out what the state can do about cybersecurity? And that's how I found out about the Wisconsin Cyber Response Team. I came down to Madison, went through a bunch of training, met a bunch of people, found there was all kinds of public sector resources for cybersecurity I didn't know about. And once I got involved with them, they kept their claws in me. They wouldn't let me go. They force-fed me all kinds of training and changed my career forever, thankfully, because I was burnt out on what I was doing. And that happens. And sometimes you need to focus, shift your focus mid-career in order to keep things engaging. And I had so much, 30 years of general IT in me, and that was good work, but I was looking for, what was the new challenging thing that was going to keep me engaged on the horizon. I had joked with some people earlier today that I was giving consideration going to culinary school before I ran into cybersecurity. But through the cyber response team, they are the only reason, or they are the primary reason I shifted focus from general IT into cybersecurity, and why I have a job with UW-Madison today. So we're going to tell you a little bit about the Wisconsin CRT, who we are, what we do, and then how we can be a benefit to UW-Madison IT professionals, which is the meat and potatoes of this presentation. I'll let Dr. Franco talk a little bit about our organizational structure.
Slide. So this slide, I'd like to draw your attention, first of all, to the map. What those stars represent are cyber response team members who reside within those particular counties. And one of the things that we want to emphasize about the Wisconsin Cyber Response Team is that it really is a statewide effort of volunteers who really do have a requisite set of skills that can, whether it be remotely over the phone or whether it can be on site at a person's place of work, whether it's a county or tribal government office building or a school district or a public utility or what have you, to go on site during someone's worst day of their career and either one, help talk them off the ledge, or two, help reassure them that there are people that have the skill set and the professional reach, not only statewide, but also within some aspects of the federal government to also assist. So I want to make sure folks understand right away that, when they see those stars, I wanted to help connotate that they aren't alone, and within their respective, region, throughout the state, we have at least one, and in several cases, many members, represented where those stars are located. So give you one example. Not too long ago, we had a ransomware incident that we responded to, and within an hour and a half of our initial contact and scoping call with the network owner, we had 6 people on site to help that network owner during that particular crisis. And that particular engagement lasted 6 days. And, as with most ransomware incidents, they can last months. So just because you get the initial bleeding, so to speak, under control doesn't mean that the incident is actually over for that network owner. So we do have folks located statewide that helps us provide surge capacity so that none of our volunteers need to feel like they have to do it by themselves or they have to overextend their schedules to participate. Now, if I can draw your attention to the upper left, in terms of where our volunteers are at, I want you to make sure you understand that we have different numbers to represent different aspects of how we organize ourselves. We require our incident responders, such as Jamie and other folks, to apply every year. And the reason why we ask for that reapplication is twofold. On the one hand, for them to be able to be protected by state statutes under emergency volunteer protections, they have to pre-register for volunteering for emergencies or disaster support. That protects them under two specific emergency management statutes, similar to what we might, colloquially know as the Good Samaritan laws. Okay, so, assuming that they're on site and they're not intentionally blasting someone's, data backups, to smithereens, they're not at risk of being prosecuted for an honest mistake that they may have made. Thankfully, the level of experience of our incident responders is such that we really don't worry about that. But our legal department, advises us that we need to ensure that we have that pre-registration to be, aligned in accordance with all of our other volunteer programs within Wisconsin Emergency Management. So this year we had 272 people reapply. If you'll notice, was a Slack pound general. We do a Slack channel for most of our communication and coordination. We have over 550 folks that are engaged in our Slack channel. So what I want you to think about is, even though we have 272 members that in December through the 1st of January of this last year re-register, we still keep them in our information sharing platform. So they're still connected. They just are taking a break from being active and responding. And we like that model because it allows us to, during that reapplication period, people can skill up. They can, update, their certifications, within our roster. It's helpful for us to know, who are the Google admin experts versus who are the Fortinet experts, what level of support might they be able to provide, for different types of needs. In terms of our incident responders, 156 people who are at the ready in our incident responder Slack channel. And what's great about that is, if we have a request for assistance by an entity, I'll put a fabricated message in the incident responder Slack channel, and I'll hit enter. We'll call it a flash message. Within 5 minutes, we'll have 30 people step up and say, hey, count me in. Literally, it's that quick. It's actually pretty impressive, because what it means is that people keep the Slack open or their notifications are on, and they're paying attention to it, and they take that request seriously. So I try not to put, too many erroneous, messages, or comments in that incident responder channel, just because when they get that all channel or all hands alert, we want them to not have the Chicken Little syndrome that might accompany with too many messages. But this year, actually, since this slide was given to Jamie last week to revise some of the data, we've actually had 2 additional incidents since late last week. So this year we've had 30 incidents that we've responded to, 3 of which were actual what we call SARs. They're basically suspicious activity reports from the field. Again, helping with our intelligence and information gathering and sharing mission for our members. We provide any number of services, from vulnerability assessments, assistance with that, incident response planning. This morning I did a consultation with a school district for getting started on developing an incident response plan, which unfortunately there are many entities that don't have those, or that have them and they haven't really been updated, or folks do it just to check a box for an insurance policy, but really not have a planned maintenance schedule or work that into the way that they test their network and look for gaps in security controls, et cetera. But we don't do it alone. You can see with our external partners list, we have several state agencies and local university contacts as well that stay connected and help us in various ways. To give you a couple of examples, University of Wisconsin at Whitewater, with their Cybersecurity Center for Business, we have an active memorandum of understanding with them, and they bolster our training. They provide us resources. We do collaborative symposium and other types of training. Maybe the flagship to mention is our Cyber Lucretia regional live cyber range exercise that we do in coordination with the Wisconsin Army National Guard. And, it allows us to make sure that we get that civilian and military coordination, collaboration tested, and we continue to shore up those procedures to make sure that we can work together and we can work together effectively. Currently, our funding is subsidized by the Homeland Security Grant Program. And what that basically means is that we get enough money to help with reimbursing our public sector members for travel, training resources. We're also working at trying to sever the need for the Homeland Security grant by looking at leveraging in-kind resources and working with our members to help keep a sustainable program without relying on federal funding for various reasons. But with all that said, it costs $0 for public sector entities to make use of our services, whether it be consultation, response, recovery, or anything in between. So I think it's important just to underscore that the work that we do is all on a volunteer basis by people such as Jamie and others who are here. And they do it because they have this passion for helping others and wanting to, help those who can't really afford to get this level of service, with their current fiscal situation. So, next slide.
Due to time constraints, we're going to need to turbo through the next few slides.
Okay.
Because I want to leave 5 minutes for testimonials and then 5 minutes for Q&A, and we got to be wrapped up by quarter after.
Slide.
This is a list of our incident response leads. Just notice real quick that most of them are public sector volunteers. We do have some state agency folks who are involved as well. Their involvement is mostly as advisory. Next slide.
Slide.
Real quick, so under emergency management, what this slide is trying to communicate is how the services the cyber response team provides fit into the 5 emergency management mission areas. So regardless of what we're doing, we do have a legitimate tie into the all hazards framework of emergency management.
Slide. A map and a list.
And that's just a quick chalk list of who we support directly.
So that's basically your critical infrastructure sectors for Wisconsin.
Slide.
And so what does all this mean to us as UW-Madison professionals, IT professionals? Well, obviously we have cybersecurity in-house resources that we can leverage in our day-to-day jobs. So the benefit to us being members of this organization is as professionals. And here's the ones that I see right off the top. The ability to be part of the solution at a state and sometimes federal level for the conundrum of how do we provide better public sector cybersecurity, right? I can be directly involved. My skill set's needed. No matter what I specialize in IT or information security, there's a need for it. And when, like Dr. Franco said, sometimes when we page out for calls, we're looking for people with specific skill sets based on the technology that the customer has. And so that's a great way to assert oneself. And it's great to be an ambassador for UW-Madison when operating in this volunteer role, because it gets noticed statewide. And so it's good ambassadorship that way. Networking with IT and cybersecurity professionals in Wisconsin. When we get down in our silo, our little work area, and sometimes we have a conundrum and we don't know how to work through it, there are peers within the state who have already worked through that. And, so it's another real-time resource to kind of bounce questions off of, see how other people have solved challenges if you don't have a peer group within UW-Madison to easily answer those questions or solve those problems. The information and threat intelligence sharing are great within the CRT because you get it at the moment. We'll get updates from the FBI. We'll get updates from the Wisconsin State Intelligence Center, updates from the military, updates from other public sector partners, CISA. All of that gets fed through our Slack posts and RSS feeds. And so you can stay on top of emergent threat intelligence as it's made known. The training opportunities, like Dr. Franco said, our incident responders receive a certain amount of training to be incident responders, but you kind of, and this bleeds into the final bullet point, we meet you where you are. You decide your own level of commitment. There's no minimum bar that you have to know this, this, or this to join. You just have to have a desire to help and be in an IT kind of or information security related role. After that, you decide how involved you want to be. We meet you where you're at and train you where you're at too.
Slide.
That's kind of the great thing. So enough taking our word for it. We want you to hear from some UW-Madison teammates who are members of the organization that can speak to both their UW-Madison experience and being a CRT member. And the first is Dave Schrader, who's a member of the CRT and a National Guard partner. And Dave, you can tell him your title at UW-Madison as well.
Sure. So, you know, a lot of you have probably seen me around. I see some familiar faces in here. I've been around campus for a while. Like, you know, everyone in this room, I started my career as, you know, in IT, and then kind of migrated over to the security and policy side of the house. And so in my capacity with the College of Letters and Science and the School of Computer Data and Information Science here, I work to advance partnerships with organizations like US Cyber Command and the National Security Agency, and things that we do in research and education and workforce development with cybersecurity and cyber operations. As Jamie said, I'm also a member of the National Guard. So I'm a cyber warfare officer in the Wisconsin Army National Guard, and also manage the partnerships that we have with US Cyber Command and the National Security Agency on the military side. So I think the real value that the CRT brings is, you know, one thing I want to stress is this is really unique in the country. There are some other states that have these types of civilian cyber reserve or volunteer cyber response organizations, but there's nothing really quite as extensive and well developed and done so with, you know, limited resources as Dr. Franco has built here with the CRT in Wisconsin. And the information that you'll get by being a member, even if you're just kind of passively involved in the Slack, is, you know, obviously you can get cyber threat intel or cybersecurity threat feeds from a lot of places, but this is relevant to things that people are seeing on the ground in Wisconsin. And, you know, you're often going to see information about cybersecurity threats even before the Office of Cybersecurity is able to, you know, put out its own advisories, not because the Office of Cybersecurity is slow, but just because that cyber threat intel is, you know, is coming out so fast. And, you know, the attackers, whether they're ransomware groups or nation states, aren't making a distinction about state lines or what county you're in or what type of organization you are. You know, they're going to be attacking regardless of all those things. And with shifting priorities of the federal government, shifting funding with CISA, the way that the federal government wants cyber defense to be pushed more to the state and local level, you know, for good or ill, we need to respond to that. So this model of, you know, kind of collaborative cyber threat sharing and incident response and cybersecurity assessments is going to be even more critical to the state of Wisconsin, the people in Wisconsin, ourselves here at UW-Madison, and it's going to be just that much more important to have this kind of collaborative basis with cybersecurity. So I could sit here and, you know, I could say a lot more, but I'm just going to stop there and pass it off to the next.
So back in March, we had our latest incident responder training, and two of my teammates, Julie Johnson and Jennifer Cole, were in attendance and became incident responders. And if you two would like to come up and briefly share your experience, I know we're running short on time. We should move a couple of minutes for questions.
I'll keep it real short here, but what I'm most thankful for as a member of CRT is the opportunity to have hands-on incident response training. Jamie just spoke about the foundations class that they had this March, and I was a part of that, and I learned an enormous amount of what it's like to respond to an incident in CRT. There are also other training opportunities I'm very grateful for, and beyond that, some intangible opportunities to network with people in IT security on the military side, on the county side, and distributed sides that we here in Madison do not necessarily meet face to face. Jen?
I'll also keep it short and sweet. For those of you that's been fortunate enough not to be saddled with me, my name's Jennifer, and I have a major problem. I work in cybersecurity, and I'm an analyst. So yeah, no, I was just going to say that I had the great opportunity to attend a really, really well-structured in-person training. And what I really found is that I hope you never have the Office of Cybersecurity show up, but when, like, how they do their incident analysis and response methods actually aligned pretty closely with how the Office of Cybersecurity does it here in Madison. So it was really unique to see like another team execute this very similar vision. And getting the hands-on experience all the way from like memory forensics, extracting logs, and then having an approach to analyzing the logs and collaborating it between a large group of people that's like remote, which is actually exactly how, like, a lot of it, how they do it is how we do it. So it's kind of a chance to like practice, hopefully without needing to do it on your own systems, a chance to help others as well. So I strongly recommend it. And yes, the CRT has provided me with opportunities training that in addition to what the Office of Cybersecurity has provided me with. And just a shameless plug for Office of Cybersecurity folks, we offer all the CRT services also at no cost to you guys. So we are very lonely people here at Testing and Cyber Defense Team. Please feel free to reach out. We're happy to talk with you about anything. Think of my team here as an extension of your team, eh? Jamie, Aaron, and Rachel are happy to help you with anything you need, not me, because I'm lazy, I just talk. And last but not least, I'll leave you with this part. Jamie, you should know cybersecurity is just like culinary school. You just print the logs and you eat them, and cybersecurity logs are mostly tangy with just the right amount of spice to it.
Thanks, Jen. I almost think like you should have let the mic drop after that. All right. Mike Hemberger is also one of our monitoring and incident response analysts from the Office of Cybersecurity. He couldn't be here today because he's actually at a CRT event, giving this same kind of speech to the Dane County Emergency Management Group. So Mike's been with us since 2017. He's one of the cores of this organization. So look for Mike in your UW-Madison travels. All right, so any interest in joining our ranks? Here's an email address. I know we pumped a lot of information in a short amount of time. I've included the short link to the slide deck for reference purposes. And at this point, I'd like to open it up to any questions you might have.
Slide Q&A. Email crt@widma.gov.
Well, since I'm under non-disclosure agreement, let me carefully anonymize that. Had a school district IT director from public K-12 call in, and one of their paraprofessionals had taken home a staff laptop and had been ransomed successfully, unfortunately, and was a phishing email that led to a phone call that led to creating bogus accounts and cashing in money for gold coins and Bitcoins. And unfortunately, that person had a horrible day, and there wasn't a lot we could do for him at that point. But luckily, they had spoken with law enforcement, and it just it drug out longer than it did because the individual who was victimized felt so bad about it that they were afraid to reach out to the school district about it. And it just reinforced the need for us as incident responders to communicate to people that the fault for any of this is the criminals who are doing this to people. It's not because your network's configured wrong. It's not because you don't have budget for security controls or personnel. It's because there are people who are trying to get money by stealing it and victimizing other people at the end of the day. Go ahead. Okay. lose 100 little days graders before I leave. To say that when I encounter a customer who's interested in cybersecurity and has the talent for it, I often tell them this. I tell them, hey, go get that associate degree in cybersecurity from Madison College. So my question for you here, Jamie, is CRT@widma.gov. Should I incorporate that? And I sense I'm working with someone who's got the faculties for cybersecurity. Should I share this information as well? Let Dr. Franco take that one. A lot of these professionals, Dr. Franco, are not IT people.
So if they aren't IT people, I mean, if they're working in some sort of information technology adjacent role, we can find a place for them. Absolutely.
W.I.gov and then go to response teams. And there's a webpage for the CIP as well that people can just read about what it is.
Yeah.
You know, we're out of time here, but feel free to hit me up on Teams or get this email address. We talked about this already. It's better than domestic violence, so.
Jamie Glass.
Jamie.glass@wisc.edu.
We did have another question over here, though, if you.
Yeah, it's gonna be online. Oh, okay.
It's a pretty easy question, or maybe not. Do you do any vetting of your volunteers for possible insider threats to your organization? And how do you do it?
Couple things that we do. On the one hand, because we don't have the funds to do full-blown FBI fingerprint background checks, for our general membership, because there's no protected data or sensitive data in our general Slack channel, anybody who's working in the IT sector, public agencies like counties, tribes, school districts, we know that they have their own background check they have to do. So we allow that as a reasonable assurance just to get into the general information sharing platform. For incident responders, they have to be an InfraGuard member. That's the FBI's critical infrastructure organization. And we also encourage folks if possible to get a EHS, TSA travel number. The vetting on that can be much more extensive than the InfraGuard thing. But on top of that, in order for a person to be an incident responder, we have to meet them in person. You know, there obviously people can, social engineer backstory and all kinds of things, but in terms of their involvement in incident response, they're watched pretty closely, especially if they're onset of the membership. We do have some mentoring that goes into. It's an issue that continues to be something that that's speculative. On our shoulders, kind of screaming at us continuously. We don't go by the trust but verify, it's a zero trust. Right? So, just one quick caveat: if you look at people, who have TSSCIs, they go through extensive background investigations and polygraph investigations. But set apart from a foreign spy stealing information, what we see is most of the TSSCI data that is leaked. Helping people with vetted backgrounds and clear. So it's not a perfect system, regardless of the classification. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. Yes, thank you.
Unfortunately, I think we're past time. So like I said, feel free to reach out to me with any questions you might have going forward about the CRT. I'd be happy to answer them.